Hello and welcome to Tactical Adventure Thailand. My name is David Gray and I'm the owner and partner in Demo Security Guard Company Limited, as well as a firearms and tactics instructor. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided that we should put together a training video for you, primarily for law enforcement, military, and armed civilians protecting their community, that shows how to use your mask in conjunction with your firearms. Imagine that you're responding to an active shooter who is at a hospital caring for victims of a biological attack. In this scenario, you will need to wear a mask to protect yourself from the biological elements that are in the air. For this reason, you need to really know your mask. Our mask is a 3M full face piece reusable respirator, 6800. The lens assembly consists of hard-coated polycarbonate lens with installed bayonet attachment, inhalation port fittings, inhalation valves, and inhalation port filter cartridge gaskets. The filters have two parts, chemical filter and a particulate matter filter. You need to know which one is which and which one's more important for your type of threat and how they connect and disconnect. So one of your most important things that you need to know is how to don and clear this mask, how to get it on and get a good fit. In order to have a good fit with a mask, you cannot have a full beard, so you need to be shaved. The more full your beard is, the thicker your beard is, the less likelihood you're going to get a positive seal on your mask when you put it on. You have adjustable buckles here. You can extend those out if you want to loosen it up before you put it on. The bottom two here are the most important ones for adjusting. You should have an initial setting on this mask that you're familiar with if it's your PPE, your personal PPE. Pull it down over your head.
Get it square on your face. Smash it into your face a little bit. And pull it tight on the adjustable straps. All of them, evenly as possible. Okay, now that you have the mask on, you need to cover the intake valve here and suck. If you inhale and that lens gets closer to your face, you have a good seal. You can exhale and you'll see the mask blow away from your face. Okay, if you don't hear any air leaking out from the sides or feel any air leaking out from the sides, you have a good seal. Now, if you need to detach a filter in order to get a good cheek weld, because we'll show you in a minute, it's going to block it. If you need to detach that, you can rotate this down and pop it off on either side. These are the bayonet style mounts that I was talking about earlier. However, as soon as you take off this filter, you have an opening here. That little silicone valve does not do anything to stop the virus or biological agents from coming in. So you have to cover that with duct tape on the outside and make a very good seal. And then I would suggest making a cardboard circle on the inside and sealing it with duct tape on the inside as well, so you don't run the risk of that tape on the outside getting snagged on something and coming open, and you have a backup on the inside as well. Okay, so as you can tell, communication with this is going to be difficult. If you have headphones, you can put headphones on and tape your microphone here for your communication device, whatever that is, radio or cell phone. If you don't, and you want to talk into a phone, put it on speaker and shout. You have to talk really loud just to be heard. Right now I'm virtually yelling. By the end of the day I will have a sore throat. You need to be able to know how to detach and attach these filters without having to take it off and look at it and figure it out and put it back on. You don't want to break the seal. I would recommend no longer than 15 to 30 minutes without hydrating in this mask, especially if you're wearing full tactical gear and carrying a weapon. You're going to be sweating profusely. And the sweatier you get, the more moisture you get around the edge of this mask, the more likely it is to slip and break the seal. There's no drinking straw in this mask, unlike some of the other gas masks and other types of masks out there. There's no way for you to drink anything. So you'd have to find a space that's decontaminated or virtually safe, demask, and drink, and then remask and go back into your situation, whatever that is.
One of the things that you need to be aware of is that depending on your environment, the temperature in your climate, the humidity in the air, these masks will steam up. Sometimes the precipitate will be on the inside, sometimes it will be on the outside. It depends on what's hotter, what's cooler, what's more humid, what's not. Some masks have treatments to help reduce that, but all masks can steam up under the right environmental conditions. Also, you get a large amount of distortion on certain types of masks, and with the dual lens type mask, you have a visual obstruction in the center between both eyes. Additionally, your peripheral vision will be greatly affected and diminished when you put this mask on.
Left and right field of vision, peripheral vision. I can just now see my hands, just barely make them out. From above, it's here, so that's not so bad. But down below, at close range, this is where I start to see my hand, here. When we're talking about on the ground, you probably have 6 feet from in front of you that you can't see the ground.
This means you're going to be tripping and falling over a lot of things if you're really not paying attention and looking down. Additionally, you need to know where all of your gear is, because
with the mask on, I can't see down, especially if I put on my vest, my plate carrier, my LBV, whatever I'm wearing. As soon as I put that on, now I can't look down because it's going to be hitting the top of that plate. So I can't look down at all. I need to know exactly where all of my equipment is.
this is going to be the weapon of choice for most law enforcement agencies, some military units, and definitely a lot of civilians. It's going to be a shotgun. Maybe not necessarily this one, but it will be a shotgun. Normally, you bring the weapon up and you can line up the sights very easily. You get a good cheek weld. You get that nice cheek weld and you can line everything up and everything works fine as it's supposed to. However, with that mask on, you cannot. Now you have a lot of obstructions. Even if you take off one filter and cover it with duct tape, you're still going to have a lot of material between your face and the buttstock of this weapon. So to get past the fact that we have so much material between our cheek and our sight of alignment and the weapon, it's in the way. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the weapon up. We're going to cant our head 45 degrees and actually up at a slight angle to where we're kind of looking out of the lower corner of this eye. And then we're going to turn the weapon 35 degrees. So we call this a 35-45 split. So 35 degrees, 45 degrees.
So if I have the filter on, I can't do it effectively. I can get behind the sight, but it really impedes my movement quite a lot. When I want to go point in as normal, I can't really do it as normal. So I have to do 45 and 35. So heads at 45, weapons at 35 degrees. If I take this filter off and cover that hole with duct tape, it becomes a little bit easier, but not by much. And I'm turning my head 45 degrees, and I'm actually pointing my head up a little bit and looking out the bottom corner of this eye so that I can get the proper angle on the sight. This requires practice, training, multiple times with the mask on.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about the AR-15 style M4 platform style weapon. First, we're going to talk about it just using iron sights. I'm not going to talk about all the accessories that are attached to it. Just using iron sights. And the reason we're going to talk about that first is because that's what most people are going to have on the firearm, whether the military, law enforcement, private, civilian. Almost everyone's going to have this, even if they don't have this. Normally, you come up, you bring the weapon up like so, and you can get behind your sights very easily. This is going to be hard because you now have all that material and the filters and everything in the way. However, with this gun, the recoil is much more manageable. It has a lot less recoil than the shotgun. We'll bring the weapon up. We tuck our elbows in tight. This support hand is not pulling back, not pushing forward. It's remaining neutral. It's clamping it in place and holding the weapon in place. This hand is pulling the buttstock down onto the shoulder to create some friction. Your face is still going to be smashed up against the weapon, but it's not going to be how you normally would have it. Now you're going to say, oh wow, that means that the recoil is going to force the weapon to the rear. Yes, it will, but it's manageable. It's something that you can control. So now I bring my shoulder up, I bring my head down, my chin down, and I'm still having to cant my head. When I have the mask on, I'll show you. I still have to cant my head to get behind the sights. And it is an awkward, uncomfortable, annoying position, but it works. The reason that we do this is because with that mask on and all this equipment on and a sling on, there's no way that you are going to be able to normally shoulder the weapon and bring it up effectively unless you're doing 35, 45, and it's still uncomfortable as heck. One of the things that you're going to have to worry about is pressing too hard with the buttstock against the side of the mask and forcing the mask off of your face, breaking your seal. So you have to be fairly gentle with this. You can't be too strong with it by smashing it against your face. You'll break your seal and expose yourself to all those biological agents or matter that's in the air.
Okay, with the filter on, trying to do the 35-45 is extremely difficult to get behind the sights. Okay, and I have to cant the weapon a lot more than I would like to. And you end up doing that. You will knock these off. So you need to make sure that you duct tape them down so you're not constantly having to pick them up and put them back on. Another thing you need to worry about is the buttstock will catch on this and release your mask. So if possible, if you're working in a team and you put your mask on, tape it. Tape that little flap in place if you can. Some of you won't be able to. Okay. So 35-45, I can get behind the sight. It's ugly, it's uncomfortable, but it works. Okay? It works even better with this off and this whole duct tape shut. This is 35-45. A lot easier that way. Okay, next we're going to talk about short stocking the weapon or the 90-degree hold, which I can do with the filter on. I don't have to take it off.
You may have noticed that my distance between the rear sight and my eye is different. You may have noticed that this looks extremely difficult and uncomfortable. It is. However, it's functional, and as anyone who knows tactics and gunfighting will tell you, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to work. It has to be effective. As you may have noticed, we're not getting into malfunction clearances and all of those kind of things with the long guns because we don't have time for it in this video and because we're going to put that into a curriculum later in a larger class. With this mask on, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be doing things that you would normally do in a CQB environment, such as switching shoulders when you're changing corners and coming around doorways because of the filters and because of the mask is going to be in the way. It's going to make it extremely difficult. If you are going to need to be switching shoulders, you're going to have to de-sling because your sling is just going to continuously break the seal on your mask by engaging these releases on your mask. So it makes it a lot more challenging. Also, it makes it a lot harder because you can't quick check as you normally would. You can't scan your environment with a free head as you normally would because if the gun's up, those filters are pressed against it. So these are some things that you need to figure out and work through in your training program. When doing handgun training with your mask on, there's a lot of things that you need to consider that will be significantly different than when you train on your own without any kind of mask on at all. Normally, there are two main basic types of shooting positions, stances, if you will, that people utilize. It's isosceles and a modified weaver. So isosceles is Arms locked straight out, up high next to your face, giving you good skeletal support, and your feet in an A frame style position as well. When I'm doing isosceles, I bring the weapon up and it's touching my arms. The mask is touching my arms on either side. I cannot look left or right. I am locked in unless I bring that weapon down significantly. If you were training to do this all the time, that's what you're going to try to do. And you're going to break the seal on that mask and you're going to have it distorted over your face and you're going to be out of the gunfight until you get that fixed. To overcome the problem with isosceles and your head being locked in place, what we want you to do is break your arms down or leave your elbows wide enough to give you some clearance. Let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, I can still look left and right rapidly without having to adjust my point of aim in case I have to come back to it really quickly. If I've shot a threat and I'm just trying to see if there's anybody coming up on my left or right, and I don't want to take my gun off of the threat yet, I don't want to have to adjust it too much just to look left and right. So I don't want to go from full isosceles down, look left and right, and then have to come back to my threat if it represents itself. I want to literally be able to set my sights on that guy, look left and right, come back and my sights are still there. Modified Weaver is similar except you're dropping an elbow and this arm is pushing out, and this arm is pulling in. When you have the gun up and the mask on, you can look left or you can look to your support side very easily, but you can't look to the right. So again, it's the same thing. We want you to bring it in a little bit. You're still pushing and pulling. You're still able to be on the sights. It's closer to your eye than normal. And you can turn your head left and right. Now we're going to talk about shooting with one hand. Let me show you what that looks like with the mask up. So when shooting with one hand, normally we extend fully, and with the mask on, you can't look to your firing side. You can look to your support side just fine, but you can't look to your firing side. So we can compress in a bit. We may need to cant the weapon just to have proper body alignment, and line up your sights, press, press. It does take more time to shoot accurately one-handed and recover from the recoil. You're not able to manage that recoil as effectively one-handed as you are two-handed. For that reason, we highly recommend two-handed shooting and only one-handed shooting if extremely necessary. Also, you're getting some distortion between what you see through the lens and your sights. So there's little wrinkles, little bends in the lens that will affect your vision, and scratches will affect it greatly as well. So you need to know where those are and how much they're going to affect it and what it is you're looking at. Right? We have a few options and accessories that we can add to our firearm to make life a little bit easier shooting from a mask. Primarily, it would be a laser. This would be the most efficient way of knowing that you are pointed at your actual target. without having to get behind the sights. You can shoulder the weapon, keep the weapon down, and still be able to find your target and know that you're going to hit your target within 1 to 2 inches of where that laser is pointed. So if you point center mass, you're going to hit within 1 to 2 inches of where that laser is hitting, and you're still going to be in center mass. Another option is your flashlight. Okay? If you know where your rounds are impacting inside your throw of your flashlight, right? So we have the focus beam, and then we have the wider throw of the light. If you know where your rounds are impacting inside that at short distances, 50 meters or less, then you're going to have an idea if you're on target or not. And if you have a narrowing beam flashlight, you will know where it is even better. It's not like a laser, it's not as accurate, it's nowhere near as accurate, but it just lets you know that you're on target. Lastly is your holographic sight. Okay? Everybody thinks holographic sights are great and wonderful, but trust me, on this weapon, they're just as difficult to get behind as an iron sight. You can see it easier, but some of the downsides of that is you may have, under low light conditions, you may have reflection, giving you a double image. So because of the types of lens that you have on your mask, you may see ghosting or double imaging. And you need to know which one you should pick up and which one you should use to sight in on your target with very, very quickly in a hostile situation. So you need to train with it in daylight, train with it in low light or in total darkness. Additionally, if you have night vision on your weapon or attached to your helmet, it will not work effectively with this mask because you will get a lot of reflection and ghost images off of the lens between your eye and the lens of the night vision device. If you're using any type of optical enhancer such as a scope or spotting scope such as this or night vision, you're going to have problems seeing through the scope as normal. Not only because you can't get proper eye relief, but because you're going to get reflection from the environment around you, reflecting off the lens, and then reflecting off of the lens of your optic, and vice versa. You're going to get, if you have a lot of light coming through your optic and getting onto your lens, you're going to get double imaging on the polycarbonate lens that is on your mask. So it becomes a lot more challenging. It's all things that can be overcome with training, and under different circumstances, they're going to affect you differently to a greater or lesser level. Just understand, on a scope mounted to your rifle, you are not going to be able to get proper eye relief as easily as you normally would, so you're going to end up with quite a lot of parallax. You're going to end up with a lot of shadow and reflection. You need to make sure that you are doing high intensity training with your mask on. This includes not only shooting, but running sprints, doing burpees, bodybuilders, whatever you want to call them, mountain climbers. You need to spend 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes in this mask putting out high level endurance training and see how it steams up, what kind of distortion you're experiencing, how difficult it is to breathe, and how you need to regulate and control your breathing in order to breathe more efficiently and effectively in this mask under circumstances that elevate your heart rate, elevate your breathing, and give you a little bit of an adrenaline rush, right? If you could achieve that in training, that's what you need to do. So please put on your mask, get out there, and run. From Tactical Adventure in Thailand, we want to say we love you, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. If you were going to train with a mask on, train hard.